Alrighty, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Greater Delray Beach Chamber of Commerce's weekly webinar. We would like to thank our sponsors, FP&L, who are our virtual sponsors, for allowing us to kind of go through and host these events. And today we have a very special guest, Kristen Prater from 9 to 5 Office, and her topic today is moving forward online as a small business. I think you guys are really going to enjoy listening to her talk. She's got a great personality, and she's got a great way of kind of putting things into perspective that allows it to be easy and easily understood. So Kristen, at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Angel. And just want to thank everybody here at the Chamber for having me here. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So yes, as Angel said, I am Kristen Prater. I'm the founder of 9 to 5 Office, and we're a company based here out of Boynton Beach. And we're helping business owners to manage day-to-day operations, to kind of get back into working on their business and not in it. That's the whole purpose of our existence, so to speak. So I realized pretty early on that this is what I had a passion for, helping business owners to get to the point where they can realize the full potential of their dreams and get back to why they even wanted to start their business in the first place. So today we're going to talk a little bit about some of the different things that you can do, amid the pandemic. We had some things that we needed to try and adapt, to change, and just to go over a few topics that could help you to move forward online and to have more of an online presence. So starting off, looking at some time sinks. During the pandemic, I think we all kind of figured out what our time sinks were when we were quarantined. I'm not quite sure if Tiger King would have been as big of a deal had it not been for the pandemic. But in business, we also have a lot of time sinks, and they aren't nearly as fun as binge watching a show on Netflix, but they do take an inordinate amount of our time nonetheless. So when you look at these three topics, social media management, copywriting, and operations, we can go down rabbit holes when it comes to social media and waste hours on scheduling posts, creating content, responding to customers or potential clients in these different Facebook or in these different social media platforms. Copywriting. Writing isn't everybody's thing, but we have to have it. We have to have the content there. So when you look at updating your website, back to the social media content too, email campaigns, these are all things that take a lot of time, and they take a lot of time when they aren't really in your wheelhouse of expertise. And then operations. Look, none of us probably love bookkeeping. Putting systems in place to make sure things are staying organized, and your staff is staying on track, all of your vendors. There's a lot to coordinate, and you have to have operations in place to make that all work efficiently and smoothly. So at the end of the day, time and money are things that businesses are typically short on. And when you look at those three things, you can have different people that are, have more expertise in all these different fields. So with social media management, you look at, they might ask you what social media platforms are most engaging for your business. Do you have type testing in place to know which kinds of posts are more engaging? Search engine optimization, analytics reporting. These are all things that if you're not doing them in your business, it really is a disadvantage to you and those that you serve, because you really want to know what's effective in your marketing. And social media management right now is an exceptionally good way to get your name, your brand out there. But if you're not doing it in the right way, it's going to be, again, a time sink. Copywriting. So this is something a colleague of mine had said, and I didn't really think about it in these terms, but everything we read was written by someone, and they were likely paid to do it. So the manuals that we get, those package inserts and directions from that furniture that you're going to have to put together from Amazon, those are all things that somebody was paid to sit and write down. So there are, freelancers and people out there that do this for a living, and they're good at it. And might be potential there to have some of those things outsourced to free up some of your time as a small business owner. And then operations. Again, operations is kind of like the babysitting portion of having a business, but a babysitter actually gets paid for it. So that's the main difference. But you want to have somebody that can act as an intermediary between clients and vendors, provide customer service, look at new hire, new client onboarding. It's all part of what goes into small business operations. So wearing all the hats. This is something that for whatever reason, and we're going to talk about it a little bit too later on, but small businesses, for some reason, tend to shy away from delegating tasks, outsourcing things. So typically as small business owners, I myself am guilty of this, we feel like we have to do everything on our own for the most part, because a lot of us start off on our own. We might be, you know, solo entrepreneurs, and you have to do all the tasks. And so as we grow, we tend to not delegate things to make things run more efficiently and to give us more time to focus on big picture things. So you can do everything, but you can't do everything well. We don't have situations where, you know, you kind of sort of get a client or almost make it. No, you either make it or you don't. So when we look at, I came up with these 3 C's for why I think that is the case. You know, typically in sales, it's customer or company, customer, and competition. But I think it boils down to cost, compromise, branding, and control. So if you look at cost, this is something that is very eye-opening for a lot of business owners. If you were to look at the hours and the time that you're spending in your business, meaning anything that you are doing that isn't something you are being paid for, the bookkeeping, all of those little tasks that we talked about. Look at what you would be paid hourly and then multiply that out and see monetarily what is being lost by you using that time to work in your business instead of on it. Another thing that comes up is compromised branding. You know, a lot of people feel like their voice is going to be lost if they delegate certain tasks to other people. But really, it's the contrary, because as you work with people and develop these relationships with people you might outsource to, or staff members that you might give projects to, they tend to figure out as you go along what your voice is, and it even enhances it because they can even add some things of value to those services or products that you're putting out there. And then control. So hopefully there are some Leslie Nopes out there like myself that really have a hard time trusting others to do different jobs. And the bottom line is we have to let go of some things because it's going to stunt our business's growth if we don't. And kind of think about it like a parent with a child. You know, we all want to train our kids and we want them to be responsible adults, so we give them little chores to do around the house. I had a personal victory when I was able to get my 4-year-old to start vacuuming during the quarantine. Of course, it's not the way I would vacuum, and I had to come to grips with that. But, you know, when you let go of these little things, it frees up time, and that's what we need to focus on. So I base this loosely on my husband, Joe. Joe has a solid small business. He started off, had capital to invest. He was able to hire some staff right off the bat, maybe, which isn't always the case with small business. So on paper, this is an ideal situation, but the business grows. That's also not a bad situation, but when we look at what Joe typically does in a given day, he has the hat of small business owner that he wears. So he's going to go keep his staff on track, deal with customer service issues, deal with the banking, the bookkeeping, staffing issues, and then if there's time left over, market for new business. So those daily tasks are going to remain consistent, but then as the business grows, there's going to be more time that he's spending on the not so important tasks instead of focusing on marketing for new business. So Joe might think he's doing pretty well, but when you really look at what he's doing, he's also doing a job that he's not being compensated for. Now, this might look like, and I'm sure small business owners like myself can appreciate this, I'm guilty of it myself, but you work on your business on the weekends or maybe at night after the kids go to sleep, because you've been managing everything else during the week. So you lose time for yourself, for your family. And it's important to realize that there's another role that needs to be filled when it comes to adequately managing your small businesses. So when we look at a business model like this, it's sustainable maybe at the beginning, but the business isn't going to be able to grow. So when you hire staff and you have growth, you need someone that's in the background that's going to kind of keep things moving smoothly and organized. So the hard hat, I chose to be the business manager. So I myself work as an online business manager, and the job of the OBM is to protect the business owner and the business itself. So while we might not have a vested interest in the business, we still view it as our own in terms of wanting to see the growth, wanting to see things flourish. That gives us a satisfaction. So keep in mind as we go through this that business manager is put there in place to serve as a protection really for the business. So I'm a little bit of a case study strange person. I like to read case studies. So I thought it might be kind of cool to get some information on small business owners and the effects of small business ownership and what it actually means for, owners going forward. So we're going to look at 3 different topics: automation, physical health, and cost. So I found there wasn't a whole lot, but I did find some case studies on this. So first up, when we look at automation. So this is something that scares a lot of business owners, especially small business owners, because it really looks as though you're, again, losing control of some things. But when you look at what it actually costs globally each year, it's a $5 trillion sink of lost funding because people aren't using automated systems to do these tasks that could be automated. So that's time that you could get back to be able to, again, grow your business. The figures that I got here came from a multinational research study into global productivity that was released by Unit 4. And they're kind of a leader in enterprise systems for service organizations or service-based organizations. So they found that across all of the countries globally that they had in this study, office workers spend on average 552 hours a year completing administrative or repetitive tasks. So that's the equivalent of 69 working days, or roughly 1/3 of a working year. So when you kind of put that in perspective of more than 2.5 months of tasks that could be basically automated, or because they're repetitive, maybe could be implemented in a different way so it would save time. So the solution is looking at different automation tools that are going to both maximize the productivity, and eventually they're going to have an effect on your clients too. Your clients are going to feel better cared for because they're receiving communication with you for things a lot quicker, and they feel like they're more engaged then. A 2015 McKinsey study actually found that a focus on automation of certain occupations is misleading. They found that an estimated 45% of activities could be automated, and that was with the 2015 technology. So you figure it's got to be more than that 5 years later. So when we look at different things that can be utilized in order to, make this automation easier, both on you and for your clients, your potential clients, there's a couple of really good resources. Zapier, I'm not sure if anybody knows what that is. It's an app, an application that basically allows you to create syncs between 2 different events. So they have integrations with all different kinds of platforms if you go online, and it's free, which is also fantastic. But when this event happens, you want to trigger to have this happen. So it takes some time to set that stuff up. But again, really important because you're not copy and pasting and, moving this from this spreadsheet to put, something here. That all is, those little things that don't seem like they're taking a lot of time, they add up as we see from these studies. Also, client relationship managers or management software. Personally, I like Dubsado, and they also have a feature where you can kind of have a free trial to try them out. But this is one of those things where you can have a situation where if you're sending someone a proposal, let's say, you'll input all the information, and then if the potential client approves the proposal, it'll generate a contract and an invoice to them right away. So there's potentially no lag time between when they say, yeah, I think I want to do this, to when they sign a contract and then pay you. And as we know, striking while the iron is hot is really important in business. So these tools are, some things that can really help with that. And then standard operating procedures. These are so fundamentally important to small businesses, especially because if you have staff where you might have some turnover, if you have roles defined and what each person's job is, it makes it a lot easier when you do have new hires to be able to onboard them in a more seamless manner. And it also, just in general, makes everything more organized. Employees are a lot happier when they can go into work and know exactly what's expected of them during the day. So when you have those standard operating procedures in place, there's no question of what needs to be done. So moving on to physical health. So I thought this was really important to look at, especially in terms of looking at moving things online, because I think we've all kind of had this meld of work days that turn into, the evenings and the weekends, and time just really doesn't have a whole lot of importance to us right now with how we're doing things. But there is a direct correlation between CEOs and the vulnerability of the business, the smaller it is. So this was a study done by Torres and Thurrock that was in economics. And they used Steve Jobs as their, kind of their CEO to look at. So he died at 56. But Apple is a well-oiled machine. It wasn't reliant on their CEO. They kept on going and never looked back. Now, comparatively, a small business is likely to collapse if the owner passes away or has some sort of other debilitating situation happen. So this study found that the health capital of an owner is the single most important immaterial capital of a small business. So when you look at when we all start our businesses, we have this euphoria that, we're going to have this new business venture and it's going to be fantastic. But then that evolves into the monotony of having to just do, run an existing business, and it might get a little sluggish. So we have to look at different ways to change and make things better for both ourselves as the entrepreneur and for those we serve. So what's the solution then? Again, outsourcing and delegating tasks. When we move things online, if that's outside of our comfort zone, it's so important to get people on your team that can help you. If you have staff, ask them, see if they might have some ability to maybe look into automating some of the things that they do, and then that might help them to be able to have more time freed up to help you with different things that could help to build the business. Now, one of the authors in this study had a really interesting experience. So he had a surgery, and anybody who's had surgery, the first question you ask the surgeon is, how long am I going to be down? When can I go back to work? So when this gentleman asked his surgeon that, the surgeon's response was, are you self-employed? As if being self-employed somehow is contingent upon how quickly your body is going to recover. But what's the lesson? You see, we put an inordinate amount of pressure on ourselves, and it takes its toll on us physically. So when we have outsourced some things and we feel like we can take those breaks, then it's important. So resources for outsourcing some of these things. There are freelancing websites online for specific duties. So they're copywriters, social media management, just different types of professions that you might see do something like that. So there's Fiverr and Upwork, and you can find all different kinds of professionals at varying levels. So you can find something to fit your budget and really make it worthwhile. So cost. So basically, we have a tendency to think if we are cutting costs somewhere that we're going to lose something. It's going to devalue something in our business. But that McKinsey study from 2015 that I mentioned earlier actually found, just going to read the quote from the study. It said, "The degree to which executives embrace these priorities will influence not only the pace of change within their companies, but also to what extent these organizations sharpen or lose their competitive edge." So adaptability is going to be key in moving along with technological advances and getting your business online. So what's the solution then? You know, we look at cost. If you have a business that has inventory, or if you're a service-based industry, survey your customers. People love giving their opinions. Really don't underestimate that. If you put a poll out on social media, you'll be surprised how many people respond to it just because they like to give their opinions, and it's free. So find out what products or services maybe you're spending a little bit more time on that might not be as effective right now amid a pandemic. Is there inventory that you could adjust because it's a product that maybe isn't as valuable to your client base right now? So when we adjust our, you know, the inventory we might have or time management on different things, can help to kind of equalize and come out being more competitive on the other side. So resources for this kind of a situation: if you have another set of eyes, look at where you could be cutting costs or time. That's going to be your best friend, because we all have our own blind sides, or blind spots, I should say. And of course we don't see them. So when you have somebody come out, somebody that's a third party, to come and look at how things are being done in your business, it really can help you to get some perspective and to find some things that might be really valuable to your business and help you to really sharpen that competitive edge that you want to have. So I am a huge Parks and Recreation fan. Hopefully everybody knows who these people are. Otherwise, the next few minutes might be lost on you. But
I'm jumping in to tell you how awesome this is. Sorry, I normally interrupt, but this is hilarious.
So that was the whole thought process behind it. I kind of wanted, when I set my business up, I was like, okay, I didn't want to have, you know, the gold package and the bronze package. I wanted it to be something fun. So this is where that stems from. But pretty much I feel like most of the clients I deal with fall into one of these four categories. There's the Ron Swansons, the Tom Haverfords, the Andy Dwyers, and the Leslie Nopes. So a breakdown, and this is all on my website too. So I kind of put the character development in my service packages here. So this was the easiest way I could come to grips with what service or, you know, what an individual would need in their business. So when you think about Ron Swanson, minimalist, he knows what he wants help with, and he wants a work proximity associate. Like, don't need a whole lot, just help me out with this specific thing. And it's like, cool, all right, we'll just be work proximity associates. We don't have to be friends. That's good. The Tom Haverford got big dreams, but not a big budget. So they might need a little bit more help figuring out where their money is best spent. And you occasionally treat yourself. The Andy Dwyer, this guy has no idea where to start, really tries to do everything himself, but has not so great results and might feel like he fell in a pit. So this one's gonna need a lot more help, but might not have the budget to be the Leslie Knope. Now the Leslie Nopes, while control freaks and really want to have everything in place, they know what they need to do and they won't stop. So they know the value in delegating other things to someone, and they will stop at nothing to get what they want. So it kind of all falls into one of those brackets, I feel like. So when you look at different services that can be outsourced, of course, you know, these are things that, like I said, you can find different options on, you know, Upwork or Fiverr. There's tons, especially right now, there's tons of people that are out there freelancing, and you know, they're able to get some income there. So just looking at some of the administrative things too, inbox management was something I didn't mention before, but it's something that a lot of people don't realize. Like, if your inbox is bogged down with all of this stuff, we try and get everybody down to inbox 0. That's our goal, you know, and the reason for that being is if you have all these other messages that are infiltrating your inbox, you could miss out on the really important ones, like a potential client. So we try and help manage those things and put filters in place to get things running smoothly there too. And yeah, just the social media management, workflow assessments to see, where things could be, maybe worked on and optimized to be a little bit more efficient. So in an effort to work with the chamber here too and doing the Keep Locals Afloat, I want to offer a free assessment of your business workflow and give you a complimentary report with recommendations based on what we see during that assessment period. So feel free to reach out to me. This is the contact information here. And I just wanted to take a chance to thank Angel again for helping set this up in the chamber. And I hope you got some valuable information from today.
Awesome. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to have you go ahead and stop sharing your screen at this time. If anybody has any questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A or the chat box because we do have Kristen here to answer some questions live. All of her information will be provided in case you think of something afterwards. And please note that this webinar has been recorded. It is on Facebook. It is on the Chamber's webinars tab page, as well as on YouTube. So there's plenty of places to find it and plenty of places to share it. So I actually do have some questions, and I'm going to go ahead and get started if nobody else wants to jump in first. So my first question is, how do I know what to outsource?
So that pretty much it's contingent on a lot of things. First of all, what I like to do on these assessment calls is find out what takes you the most time to do in a given week. And also to find out what you don't like doing, because at the end of the day, we all want to enjoy what we're doing, and you got into business to enjoy it. You're not wanting to, do these mundane tasks that really don't have any appeal to your business. So looking at those specific things, and then in your particular business, it might be more advantageous. Like if you don't have any social media management happening right now, it would be important to get that outsourced maybe if you haven't even started it maybe. But it does vary based on that. But those are the two main things. What do you spend the most time on, and what do you dislike doing the most?
So if I kind of like rang a little bell when you were talking about your 4-year-old and how, you got him to vacuum, and maybe it wasn't how you would do it. It just kind of clicked for me. I was like, oh my goodness, that's how I feel with my husband in something.
Training husbands is a completely different animal though.
Truly. I'm sure your 4-year-old does better vacuuming, I promise you. But okay, so that's good to know. I mean, that does kind of put it a little bit in an easy way to understand. I almost would start with the thing I don't like doing, because if you don't like doing something, you don't do it well probably. And it's hard to probably ever get right on track. Awesome. Okay, so I'm sure a lot of business, or at least small businesses, probably have this question, and it probably causes a lot of stress. And I was kind of like, this is, something that I think a lot of people can relate to. What if I can't afford to hire someone?
Right. So this is a big thing that people come up with a lot. And I like to go back to that breakdown of cost, because if you look at what it costs you to do those tasks, if you're doing those tasks, you're not paying yourself a wage to do that. And if it's something that could be outsourced, you'd be surprised how much money you can save by outsourcing it. These tasks that people are getting outsourced, aren't thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars every month that they're being paid to do these things. So I like to look at it from the standpoint of I'm thinking, I have mostly service-based clients, so that's kind of where my brain goes. So when you look at like the highest tiered service or package you offer, look at what that is. And then if you're able to pay someone to do those mundane tasks so that you could focus on getting one of those high tiered package clients, then it makes sense to outsource it. And it's going to be a fraction of, what it would cost you in terms of a lost sale.
Right. Okay. And then, so just to be clear, just so everybody knows, let's say I try and kind of do that on my own, and I still can't kind of figure, you're available to help evaluate that. Okay.
That's what those assessments are really geared toward. Of course, you know, if it looks like we could be a good fit and be of assistance, great. But if not, I have a ton of resource pools to pull from of people that charge all different, you know, kinds of fees based on what structure you might need in your business.
Wonderful. So either way, it's kind of like a win-win. You'll make sure we
it's
get
a win-win. No pressure.
Awesome. Okay, and then do I need a virtual assistant or online business manager? And if so, how important is that?
So this is something that comes up. I actually just wrote a blog post about this, because if you're in the online world, those are two different professions that kind of come up in topic a lot. So you kind of, I compare it in my blog to, they usually call the virtual assistants like the workhorses, but I prefer to call them like, they're really like valuable steeds, you know, like they're, because they do a lot, you know, it's these tasks that you say, okay, I need you to do ABC, and they go and do them. Okay. An online business manager is focused more on growth. So you're looking at someone who is going to help you to look at the big picture and say, okay, you know, maybe you want to focus more on this, budgets, you know, different things that a regular assistant might not think of. Both are very valuable in their own rights. If you're working on your business and feel like you got a good grasp on what's happening with it, a virtual assistant is probably the perfect fit for you, because it's just a matter of saying, okay, I don't want to deal with my bookkeeping. Boom, hand it over. Or I don't want to do my social media stuff. Hand it over to them. So those are the kinds of tasks. When you get into more of the operations side of things, that's where a business manager becomes a more appropriate fit.
Would it behoove a small business to have both, or it's usually one or the other, or it's kind of unique to the situation?
Unique to the situation, I'd say the virtual assistant is most frequently used because it's the value you get from just being able to hand tasks off to somebody is tremendous. But as the business grows, a lot of times an online business manager is then implemented.
Okay, wonderful, great. All right, well, if anybody else has any other questions, we want to give you a second to type it in. Kristen is here to answer. And I want to take this time to say thank you so much for joining us. I know that the world is a little bit crazy right now, and we had a couple of minutes to talk offline before we started this webinar, and we just want everybody from the Delray Beach Chamber, and I'm sure from 9 to 5 office, we're wishing all of you to just stay safe and healthy, and we're glad when you can join us. So please tune in for us next week. We do have our weekly webinar again on Tuesday at 12:30. And this, as I mentioned before, will be on Facebook. It will be on the Chamber's website under the webinars tab, and it will be on YouTube. So you can kind of revisit this if there was something that struck a chord with you, or you just want to watch it over again. That was a lot of very helpful information, and very funny at the same time, which sometimes I think in business you forget that you can have fun, and you forget that, you know, it can be not this like go to work every single day and just work. You can have some laughs in the middle of the day. So thank you again. I don't see any questions. So I think we're going to go ahead and wrap this up.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.